I had been in a relationship with Sarah for 7 years, but eventually she ended up falling in love with Julian, my adopted brother. I was exhausted by the whole situation, so I decided to give a chance to Claire, a woman who had been pursuing me for quite a long time. Claire seemed to love me deeply. There was a time when she hiked all the way up a famous mountain, stopping to kneel and pray for my health. And she even bought a very rare, expensive watch called the Heart of the Ocean at an auction specifically for me. However, just 7 days before we were scheduled to get married, I overheard a conversation that changed everything. Someone asked her, "Claire, you don't actually love Ethan. Why are you going through with this charade and sacrificing your entire life just to marry him?" Claire's face was obscured by the shadows as she nervously twisted the engagement ring on her finger. Her voice was cold and steady when she replied, "As long as I am alive, I will never let Ethan hurt Julian." Julian. That is the name of my adopted brother. My hands were shaking as I answered a phone call from my academic advisor, Dr. Hayes, and told her that I agreed to go overseas to pursue my doctorate. Later on, I heard that the wedding turned into a complete disaster. Sarah and Claire apparently got into a massive argument, both of them frantic as they tried to locate the groom who had run away. Standing outside the bar that night, I felt like I couldn't get enough air into my lungs. Tokore. If I hadn't heard Claire say those words with my own ears, I never would have believed that the love she showed me was entirely fabricated. The person talking to her had pushed further, asking, "But Claire, you've loved Julian from a distance for so long. Are you really okay with just protecting him secretly like this? You insist you only like Julian, so this has nothing to do with him, but you demanded to get married on the exact same day as Sarah, just because you were worried Ethan would try to steal his brother's woman, right?" Claire had replied. "Every time I see Julian, my heart races. I am worried that Ethan won't be able to let go of his past with Sarah. He and Sarah were involved for years. Even though Ethan gave up his career for me, it isn't enough security. Keeping Ethan on a short leash forever, tied to my side, is the only way I can ensure Julian is safe." Not long before this, Claire had rented a private yacht to propose to me, and I had said yes. I truly thought she loved me so much that our 5 years together were finally leading to a happy ending. I was wrong. She was just celebrating the fact that she had finally trapped me in a cage, so I could never be a threat to Julian again. It is difficult to explain exactly how I felt in that moment. After standing there for a long time, I grabbed my chest because the pain was sharp and intense, and then I stumbled out into the heavy rain. Claire came home around midnight. She took off her coat and walked to the side of the bed, where she found me soaking wet and burning up with a fever. "Baby, when did you go out? You have a high fever," she said. I was shivering uncontrollably because of the chill. My jaw was clenched so tight that I couldn't speak. It was a physical reaction to the stress, a complete shutdown of my system after realizing the betrayal. Claire looked terrified. "Ethan, don't bite your lip like that. You're bleeding," she said. Without hesitating, she put her index finger into my mouth to stop me, her face showing nothing but fear and concern. It felt like I was transported back to the past. Years ago, my parents had abandoned me in the mountains for Julian's sake. I had fallen off a cliff and almost died. Back then, Claire had braved a terrible storm to kneel and bow every few steps up that mountain to pray for my recovery. When I saw her forehead bruised from bowing and her knees scraped raw, and saw her limping, I decided to let go of the anger I felt toward my parents and Julian. I chose to be with her. But tonight, I had heard Claire tell her best friend the truth about that day. She had said, "Back then, I knelt all the way up that mountain to show the heavens how sincere I was, so that Julian's heart condition would improve. Ethan just got lucky and survived on his own." With every bit of strength I had left, I bit down hard on Claire's finger. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth immediately. Claire didn't pull her hand away. It seemed like she didn't even feel the pain, her face just full of anxiety as she said, "Ethan, bite down. Please, just don't hurt yourself. I would rather you break my finger." Finally, I let go. Her blood was in my mouth, and I found it repulsive. Claire rushed me to the hospital that night. She held my hand and stayed by my bedside the entire night without sleeping at all. "How sweet," I heard the young nurses whispering nearby. "Miss Davis loves her fiancé so much. She has been up all night taking care of him." To the rest of the world, the heiress of the Davis family was known for being cold and uninterested in men. Only I knew the actual truth. She was worried. She was worried that if I didn't make it to the wedding on time, it would ruin Julian's happiness. When I woke up, Claire was there, carefully feeding me oatmeal 1 spoonful at a time. The finger I had bitten was wrapped in thick bandages, but she was only talking about me. "Ethan, I wish I could take this sickness for you. Please get better soon for me, okay?" I swallowed the oatmeal without showing any emotion. I suddenly realized that this was the last breakfast we would ever have together. A deep sadness churned inside me. I wanted to scream, to tear the room apart and demand answers. The Claire I used to know had always stood just a step away, waiting for me to notice her. Slowly, I had fallen for her overwhelming affection, only to discover in a single night that it was all fake. She had used the pretense of love to trap me. I finally broke down and started crying. Claire panicked, pulling me into her arms and wiping my tears. "Ethan, does it hurt that much? I'll go get the doctor." She took out her phone. Just then, she got a text message and her face went pale. "Ethan, something urgent came up at the office. Take your medicine and get some sleep. I'll be back to stay with you soon." Before I could say a word, she pushed the door open and hurried away. I quietly looked at my own phone. Julian had just posted a photo on his social media feed with the caption, "My heart is feeling a little weird." The background of the photo was a sterile white hospital room. Remembering the frantic look on Claire's face as she left, a sharp pain shot through my heart. My phone buzzed over and over again with a string of taunting messages from Julian. "Bro, Sarah managed to get that tuxedo you wanted for me. And that church you wanted for your wedding? Mom and Dad secured it for me. As for that Heart of the Ocean watch from the auction, do you think my future sister-in-law will give it to me?" A man's intuition is a strange thing. When you are lost in the maze of being in love, it seems to fail completely. But the moment you wake up, all the clues and signs become obvious. In recent years, Claire, who had invested heavily in artificial intelligence, Daintreux, had surpassed both my family's business and Sarah's family business. Her company grew rapidly, but whenever something of mine was taken away, Claire would look helpless and say, "That Sarah is too cunning. Don't worry, Ethan, I'll find you an even better tuxedo. Your parents are just playing favorites. I'll convince them to come to our wedding, I promise." With the power she had now, it wasn't that she couldn't win, it was that she couldn't bear to see Julian upset. The sky outside was a dull gray. I walked toward the VIP wing of the hospital. When I was 9 years old, our nanny kidnapped me and sold me to a family in a remote mountain village. I was rescued 3 years later. There wasn't a single part of my body that wasn't scarred. When my mother saw me, her heart ached, and she started to embrace me. But next to her stood the son they had adopted while I was gone. Julian was terrified by my wounds and started crying even harder than I was. My mother panicked. She hugged him tightly and turned to me, saying, "Ethan, Julian's heart is weak. The doctor said he can't handle any shocks. We're going to take him home first." Sarah, who had just arrived, gave me a quick glance and left with them. Only Julian looked back, a triumphant smirk on his face. I stood at the door of the hospital room now. My mother was feeding Julian a slice of apple, her voice full of pity. "Honey, Ethan was spoiled by us. That's why he is insisting on having his wedding on the same day as yours." My father was angry. "Don't worry, your mother and I will only attend your wedding." Their tone, itsu, dripping with disdain for their biological son while defending their adopted one, made my stomach turn. I felt like I was going to be sick. Julian tugged on Claire's sleeve. "My brother is so headstrong. It must be tough on you, Claire." Suddenly, he clutched his chest in pain. Claire's face changed instantly. "Julian, is it your heart? I'll find the best specialist in the world for you." "It's nothing," Julian said. I just had a dream last night that I wore the Heart of the Ocean watch, and I felt all better." She didn't hesitate for a second. "Julian, if you like it, I'll go get it for you right now." My parents' faces filled with gratitude. "It's our fault we spoiled Ethan. He was always trying to take your things." My heart was so numb it couldn't feel anything more. When someone doesn't love you, even your breathing feels like a mistake. Twisting the truth, turning black into white. What did any of that matter? Julian sent me a picture. He was wearing the Heart of the Ocean, the sapphire watch Claire had bought for me. I clenched my jaw, desperately trying to stop the bitter tears from welling up in my eyes. Claire had once told me, "Ethan, this watch is the only one of its kind in the world. It represents my undying love for you." Her devotion had been addictive. Now I had woken up to find it was all a lie from the very beginning. Is the adult world just a contest to see who is the better actor? I covered my mouth, feeling the bitter taste of a broken heart. When I lifted my hand, I felt tears streaming down my face. When my advisor called, I almost dropped the phone. I promised her, "I'll book my flight to leave in 7 days." The hospital room door was thrown open. A woman's anxious voice called out, "Ethan, where are you going?" Seeing who it was, the heart that had leaped into my throat finally settled. It wasn't Claire. I spoke coldly. "Sarah, you lost the right to ask me anything 5 years ago." Silence filled the room. That was Sarah tonight. Her father and my father were best friends and had arranged for us to be married when we were children. Growing up, I loved following my big sister Sarah around. She took good care of me, too. My first designer watch, my first pair of limited edition sneakers, my first designer briefcase. They were all gifts from Sarah. Marrying her when I grew up became my one and only dream. But during the 3 years I was gone, my father brought Julian home. He looked a bit like me. So. Sarah's disappointment, my mother's grief, my father's stress, all of it was soothed by this poor little orphan. There was no place for me in my own home anymore. It took every ounce of my strength not to drown in that pain. Sarah had been watching my expression, and she said angrily, "Claire actually gave the Heart of the Ocean to Julian. Do you have any idea what that means?" I replied, "Of course. Where the heart is, there is home." Seeing my lack of reaction, Sarah couldn't believe it. "Claire's heart isn't with you, and you're still going to marry her?" She was agitated. I just felt weary. "Sarah, Claire isn't the first person to abandon me for Julian. First it was my parents. Then it was the woman I thought was my fiancée since childhood. If I had to fight for every single one of them, could I ever win?" Sarah's face went white. She didn't know why she had come to tell me all this. Maybe it was the ecstatic joy on Julian's face when he received the watch that made her uncomfortable. Maybe it was the growing power of Claire's family, which made my father treat her with increasing deference, that made her feel threatened. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because she had finally gotten a taste of what it felt like to be ignored, just as I had been. It was only then that she realized the little boy who used to follow her around had probably been through a lot. For a moment, Sarah didn't know what to say. When Claire saw Sarah sitting by my hospital bed, her face darkened. "What are you two doing?" Sarah clenched her fists, not wanting to speak. I said flatly, "She came to tell me that you gave the Heart of the Ocean watch to Julian." Sarah looked at me, her expression wounded. She couldn't believe that the boy who once defended her most fiercely would now lay his own pride bare in front of his rival. It felt like I truly didn't care about her at all anymore. Claire shot a hateful glare at Sarah. After Sarah left, Claire threw her arms around me and explained, "Ethan, it's not what you think. Julian is your brother, and your parents are so worried about his health. His heart is weak, so he begged me to give him the watch as a sort of good luck charm. It's just like the prayer talismans I got for you when I knelt all the way up the mountain." I remained silent. Claire swore up and down, making all sorts of promises. "If you like, I'll buy you another even more expensive set of cufflinks right now." I said, "Forget it. I never really liked that stuff anyway." A heart mixed with shards of glass hurts more than anything. Claire wasn't happy with that. She had her assistant keep an eye on the auction houses, determined to buy an even more brilliant set of ruby cufflinks. She was adamant that I would be the most dazzling person at the wedding. But there was no us anymore. What wedding? I went home to pack my things. Claire wrapped her arms around me from behind, a confused look on her face. "Honey, your closet looks a lot emptier. The seasons are changing. I wanted to buy some new clothes." I asked, "But weren't those your favorite clothes?" She replied, "You get tired of things eventually." A wave of panic inexplicably washed over Claire. "Ethan, are you mad at me for not spending enough time with you lately? I told you, after we get married, I'll give you a warm home." I followed her gaze. On the dresser was a snow globe. Inside, a happy family lived with their little dog. The memory pulled me back to my 18th birthday. My parents insisted on holding it for both me and Julian. We wore identical suits. We stood in front of a large cake. Suddenly, Julian lunged forward and shoved my head down. A toothpick from a strawberry on the cake nearly stabbed me in the eye. Frosting smeared all over my suit. I was a complete mess. Tears of pain streamed down my face. Julian started crying. "Brother, I didn't mean to. My classmates all play like this. I thought you'd like it." My mother played peacemaker. "Ethan, Julian is younger than you. He's just being playful." My father also told me not to make a big deal out of it. I wanted to punch Julian. But Sarah, whom I had known for over a decade, grabbed my wrist and squeezed. She held on so tightly that it hurt. Everyone was on Julian's side. I was so wronged I didn't know what to say. I straightened my clothes and walked away. No one came after me to comfort me. It was dark when a girl appeared in the park. It was Claire from the class next to mine. She said she admired me for always getting first place in math. The girl used a tissue to wipe the frosting off my suit. She went to a store and bought me the snow globe, telling me my wish would definitely come true. Later, Claire learned that my wish was to have a home of my own. She bought me a house and let me fill it up piece by piece, like a hamster moving into a new cage. The sky blue curtains, the matching couple's mugs, the vase of roses on the dining table. They were all witnesses to our love. Looking into the woman's deep eyes, a thought suddenly struck me. All this time, even back then, Claire had already been Julian's guardian angel. The realization sent a chill down my spine. Claire's eyes were filled with bewilderment. "Ethan, why are you shivering? Are you cold?" My body was cold. My heart was colder. I repeated it to myself silently. Lies. It was all lies. I can't love Claire anymore. I won't love Claire anymore. My sudden coldness threw Claire into a panic. She stuck to me like glue. She wouldn't leave my side. At breakfast, she sat right next to me. I couldn't push her away. When I went to the bathroom, she'd stand outside the door, analyzing the situation out loud. "Honey, you don't have cold feet, do you? No way. You love me so much? You've always wanted a home with me. Why would you be afraid to marry me?" As I listened to her talk to herself, my mind was consumed with one thought: how to get away from her and go to my parents' house to get my passport. Claire had to go to an auction eventually. I went back to my family's home alone. Standing at the door, I heard my father say, "Julian is getting married soon. Why don't we give him 10% of our shares as a wedding gift?" My mother smiled and agreed. "Julian makes sure the housekeeper stews bird's nest soup for me every day. He's so obedient and caring, he's really won my heart." Then she seemed to remember something. "What about Ethan? Are we not giving him anything?" My father snorted. "That ungrateful brat. Ever since he came back from the mountains. He's done nothing but give us attitude and never comes home. It's like we wronged him once and now we owe him for life. How can we ever rely on him in the future?" That wasn't true. At first, I was like a wounded bird. I couldn't wait to return to the safety of my parents' wings. But I found that everything had changed. The room my mother had decorated for me, the video game console my father had bought from abroad, the beautiful watch Sarah had given me. They all belonged to Julian now. I wanted them back. But Julian would burst into tears on command, clutching his chest as if he were about to faint. My father slapped me across the face. "You spent a few years fending for yourself and forgot all your manners." My mother looked at me with disappointment. When I was at my lowest, Julian was there for me. Where were you then? Where was I? I was being beaten by my foster father. I was washing tub after tub of clothes for my foster mother. Inside the villa, my father's voice suddenly rose. Remember that time Ethan got jealous of Julian and pushed him into the pool? That kid spent 3 years out there and came back completely rotten. I froze. It was clearly Julian who pushed me. But they refused to believe it. They were convinced that since Julian couldn't swim, he would never risk his own life just to push me into the water. Forget it. Some misunderstandings are destined to never be cleared up. Some love should have been taken back a long, long time ago. I pushed the door open and walked in. My father immediately started yelling at me. So, you finally decided to come home? You're so selfish, always competing with Julian for everything. My mother sighed. Ethan, Julian is much more considerate than you. He's willing to have a joint wedding with you so that your father and I won't be in an awkward position, so people won't laugh at us for not attending our own son's wedding. I lowered my eyes and gave a cold smile. My father snorted again. Claire's company is doing much better than Sarah's now. Your mother and I got Julian a new house. You should learn to be content and not ask for one. I smiled, but my eyes were full of scorn. I won't. After all, Dad, you've said before that I can have things you give me, but I can't ask for them. My mother, seemingly oblivious to my coldness, said with satisfaction, Ethan, I'm glad you understand. If you just behave, our family will only get better and better. My quiet compliance gave my parents a great sense of accomplishment. They didn't notice that Claire and Julian had returned. She looked at my impassive face and suddenly felt a pang of panic. Just as she was about to say something, Julian hugged my mother and spoke first. Mom, Dad, I love the 5,000-square-foot penthouse you got for me. It's right across from Claire's office. My mother affectionately tapped his nose. You like being in the middle of the action, so your father picked a spot right in the city center. At the dinner table, my father clapped Claire on the shoulder, looking pleased. Thanks to that friend you introduced us to, we got a 50% discount. His words made me laugh out loud. Just a little while ago, I'd overheard Claire telling her assistant to secure the landmark building across from her company at all costs. Claire glanced at me guiltily and mumbled, It was a business friend who was in a hurry to sell. If you want a new house, I'll buy one for you. Don't be upset, okay? I shook off her outstretched hand. Tell enough lies and it becomes the story of the boy who cried wolf. Only a fool would believe you. I felt the passport in my pocket. 3 more days, and I could finally leave them all behind. The high-end tailor shop called to tell me to come in for a fitting. The original suit had been snatched up by Julian. Claire had hired a famous designer to create a new, custom-made one for me. I looked at myself in the mirror. The hand-stitched tuxedo seemed to blend the night sky and starlight, with diamonds on the lapel sparkling like a constellation. I had wanted to walk toward the love of my life in a respectable suit. It didn't matter now. As long as I learned to love myself, happiness wouldn't pass me by. Julian showed up. Brother, even an expensive suit doesn't look all that great on you. His words were mocking, but the jealousy in his eyes was impossible to hide. I remained indifferent. Julian rolled up his sleeve, revealing the watch on his wrist. Brother, Claire gave me the Heart of the Ocean watch. I told her I wanted the new ruby cufflinks she just bought at auction, and she agreed immediately. How many times has it been now? All I have to do is ask, and I can easily take anything I want from you, whether it's Mom and Dad, Sarah, or Claire. I could tell he was gloating, but I still couldn't be bothered to respond. Ethan, why don't you get on your knees and beg me? Otherwise, be careful, or I might just steal Claire from you too. Ethan, does being a predator make you happy, yeah? Defa, why were you born a rich kid while I had to be an orphan? I love watching people who think they're high and mighty fall from their pedestals, preferably into the mud. Ethan, I will take everything from you. Seeing his confident expression, a sharp pain twisted in my heart. This was a sadness only those who have never been loved can feel. I held back the tears that threatened to fall and curved my lips into a smile. Julian, Only the truly desperate spend their days picking up other people's trash. If you love garbage so much, feel free to collect it all. I didn't want any of it anymore. The final day before the wedding, Claire tricked me into going to my parents' house. She said they were cooking a farewell dinner for their 2 sons. Julian was on the sofa, laughing and joking intimately with my mother. Sarah didn't look well and was drinking by herself. Once we were at the table, Claire's tone was full of concern. "Ethan, Dad's cooking tonight. You should eat more." My father had started as a poor kid, working as a kitchen hand for a master chef. With my mother's family connections, he built a successful empire in the restaurant industry. When I was little, he was too busy with business to cook a single meal for me. Looking at a table full of dishes Julian loved, I had no appetite. My father slammed his chopsticks down. "Ethan, what's with the attitude? You're about to get married and you're still going to give your father attitude?" I said, "My stomach is sensitive. I can't eat spicy food." He shot back, "You're just so picky. Julian never complains about food and even praises my cooking." Claire put a piece of spicy meat in my bowl. "Just eat a little. I'll make you some porridge when we get home. Don't make your father unhappy." I was finally done with all of it. I put down my chopsticks, ready to leave the table. Someone felt his paternal authority had been challenged. My father stood up, displeased, and raised his hand to slap me. The sound was incredibly loud. My head snapped to the side, my ears ringing. Claire was horrified. "Dad!" My father had been drinking a lot. Now his eyes were wide with anger, and he wouldn't let it go. "Ethan, it's your own damn fault for having such a difficult personality. Who knows what kind of trouble you'll cause after you marry Claire?" While Claire and a surprisingly intervening Sarah scrambled to find me an ice pack, he leaned in and ordered in a low voice, "Claire's career is taking off. Since you're so unlikable, why don't you just call off the wedding and let Julian have her? So tonight was an ambush." I laughed mockingly. "Giving up Sarah wasn't enough, huh? I have to throw in another one? If you still consider me your father, you'll call off this wedding and give Julian time to think things through." Looking at the table of half-eaten food, I felt the last shred of warmth between us had been severed. "Don't worry. Julian will get his wish very soon." Back at home, Claire hugged me. "Ethan, tomorrow you'll finally be my groom. I've waited for this day for so long." How ridiculous. At my parents' house, I'd heard Julian say to her, "Claire, you're so good to me. I think I'm starting to fall for you. But I can't let go of Sarah. My heart is such a mess. What should I do?" Claire had planted a devout kiss on his forehead. "It's okay. I'll wait for your answer before the ceremony is over." When you deeply love someone, are you willing to be their backup plan? No, I wasn't. Claire kissed my hair, then glanced around the room, her eyes landing on the packed suitcases. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. She asked urgently, "What's that?" I replied, "It's nothing." Just as she was about to investigate, her assistant came in to remind her, "Miss Davis, according to custom, the bride and groom must spend the night before the wedding apart." Claire wrapped her arms around my waist, refusing to let go. "I have a strange feeling that I shouldn't leave Ethan, but Miss Davis, the presidential suite is ready." Just then, her phone rang. Claire glanced at the name on the screen and instantly let go of me. I looked down at the message Julian had sent me. "Brother, ni tu. I've decided to give Claire a try first before I decide whether to crash the wedding. Being with Sarah is just too exciting. I'm not sure I can give that up." Claire gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. She didn't even glance at my phone. She left without a second thought. I didn't make a move. I called the car service I had already booked, loaded my luggage into the trunk, and disappeared into the night. Claire lay in Julian's room, an inexplicable panic creeping into her heart. She had dreamed of this day for so long, but now she felt an emptiness inside, as if she had lost a precious gem. Julian wrapped his arms around Claire's neck and whispered in her ear, "Claire, I'll be fine. You don't have to worry about making too much noise. Mom and Dad gave me the best room. It has great light. It's soundproof." "This room used to be Ethan's." Julian pouted. "So what if it was? Mom and Dad love me more. He doesn't deserve it." Claire pushed him away. "I should go." Julian asked. What if I want to choose you at the wedding? Claire stiffened. You've loved Sarah for years. If you back out at the last minute, it will cause a huge scandal, and it won't be good for your father's company. Julian stared at her in disbelief. Claire, are you not going to take responsibility for me? A voice in her heart whispered that the place of Mr. Reed should belong to Ethan Reed. As for Julian, she could protect him for a lifetime with designer watches, luxury cars, and yachts. Before dawn, Claire rushed back to the home she shared with me. She turned on the lights. The house was empty. She called my name several times, but there was no answer. Panic washed over her like a tidal wave. The closet was empty, the desk was cleared, and the couple's photos on the shelf were gone. Only a small fire pit sat in the kitchen. In the corner of a half-burnt photo, 2 hands were clasped tightly. In the trash can lay a shattered snow globe. It was the gift she had given me on my 18th birthday. It was the home she had promised me. Claire felt a chill run through her, a sharp pain in her heart. She couldn't say a word. Her mind went blank. She grabbed her phone to make a call. The phone rang. A flicker of hope ignited in Claire's heart until she found the phone in a drawer. She unlocked it with her birthday. I had deleted everyone. I had only left the chat with Julian and a few audio recordings. Julian had sent me a ton of photos. He was showing off all the things Claire had given him, including the newly purchased ruby cufflinks. And the conversation ended with that message about giving Claire a try. Claire clenched her fists, her hand trembling as she played the recordings. It was my father's voice. He was warning me to leave the marriage for his brother, forcing me to leave. An earlier recording was of her in the bar, laying her heart bare, saying keeping me on a leash was the only way to protect Julian. Claire's mind went completely blank. She practically ran to the tuxedo shop in a frenzy. No, Ethan loved her so much he wouldn't give up on their marriage over a little hiccup. But another voice in her head told her otherwise. Lately, Julian's heart had been acting up, and she had spent every waking moment with his parents by his side. She had neglected me. I had stopped waiting for her to come home for dinner. My stern had slowly cleared out my clothes, and when my parents treated me unfairly, I hadn't told her how much it hurt. After what felt like an eternity, Claire's phone started ringing non-stop. She answered weakly. Julian's voice had a hint of complaint. Claire, the wedding is about to start. Why aren't you here yet? Ethan's gone. Where am I supposed to go? On the other end, my mother's voice trembled with anger. I thought Ethan had finally learned his lesson. He agreed to a joint wedding. How could he cause a scene at Julian's wedding? My father cleared his throat and said sternly, I knew he'd never change. He just wanted to embarrass the whole family. Claire, you know how Julian feels. If you change your mind, I'll talk to Sarah. His words made it clear he wanted the now powerful Claire to marry his beloved adopted son. Claire froze completely. The image of my face, desolate and devoid of any hope for family affection, flashed in her mind. A sharp knife plunged into her heart. The pain was so intense she nearly fainted. No, she had to go get justice for me. The wedding was in chaos. To stall for time, my father kept making things difficult for Sarah, demanding she invest another $1 billion into my family's company. My mother, head down, was gently comforting Julian. Seeing her father's old friend act with such coldness, Sarah found the situation absurd. How had she never noticed the extent of my family's favoritism toward their adopted son? Ethan must have had a terrible time all these years. If he were here, would he be laughing at her, saying, "You only know pain when the knife cuts your own flesh"? Sarah was utterly disappointed. Julian, if you don't want to marry me, the engagement is off. Julian started to argue. Sarah, what are you talking about? But stopped when Claire appeared. His face lit up. Go take a look in the mirror. With Claire marrying me, I'll be just fine. But things did not go as he expected. Claire grabbed Sarah by the collar. Where did you hide Ethan? If you hadn't stirred up trouble and told him I gave the heart of the ocean to Julian, he never would have left me. You're the one who swooped in when he was vulnerable. Otherwise, Ethan would have waited for me to come around. The two of them started fighting. Julian cried out. "I'm the one you should be fighting over, not Ethan." The giant screen at the wedding flickered on. Someone had been instructed to publicly display the explosive contents of the phone I had left at home. There were also photos Julian had sent showing him and Claire in his bedroom. The guests were in an uproar. Is the Reed family insane? They let the adopted son steal the biological son's woman, and the father forced his own son to give up the marriage. I'm telling you, Julian isn't Mr. Reed's son. He's his boy toy. My father's blood pressure skyrocketed. My mother fainted from the shock. The scene devolved into utter chaos. I was in an AI lab overseas doing research when I heard about the fiasco. A weight I had carried in my chest for so long finally lifted. I had intended to just walk away, to cut ties with everyone. But if I did nothing, how could I justify a heart that had been deceived for so many years? It's human nature to always want more. If I had exposed everything before I left, my parents would have woven a web of lies to protect their precious adopted son. His heart condition was Julian's ultimate weapon. It made everyone revolve around him unconditionally. But in this world, being weak doesn't automatically make you right. Claire's deception, my father's aggression, they would become bullets that, at the right moment, would hit them square in the head. You've wasted a lot of time. Still spacing out? I looked up. My advisor, Dr. Evelyn Hayes, stood in the sunlight. In her early 30s, she was already a top expert in the field of artificial intelligence. She was cool, brilliant, and subtly powerful. We had clashed when I graduated over whether I would continue my studies. Dr. Hayes had looked at me with extreme disappointment. "Ethan, you are the most talented student I have ever had. To give up a research opportunity abroad for a woman is incredibly foolish." At the time, I was completely enveloped in Claire's love. When I saw her get hit by a car and break her leg trying to save me, I resolutely gave up my career and stayed. I gave the patent for my research from that year to her company, helping it rise to prominence. Time has passed. I can't blame the love-starved version of myself back then. Only by hitting rock bottom could I finally wake up. 3 years later, Dr. Hayes led her team back to the country. We set foot on familiar soil. We were invited to a high-profile academic conference in the industry. Claire and Sarah were there, one in the front row, one in the back. They watched me on stage, their eyes glued to me. The spotlight shone down. I was confident and articulate, speaking with ease. It was the first time I had seen looks of astonishment and admiration on their faces. I stared straight ahead, giving them no acknowledgement. Dr. Hayes taught me a lot. Don't regret being good to others, even if you're betrayed, even if you hit rock bottom. Being good to others doesn't mean they deserve it or not. It just means you are a good person. Once you understand that you are the best, you will put yourself first. Prioritize your own well-being in all things, work harder, and become a better version of Ethan. Riding on my research, Claire had taken her company to new heights, leaving my family's and Sarah's businesses far behind. But she wouldn't get a second chance. I held a glass of red wine, surrounded by industry titans. They saw my potential and understood the power of Dr. Hayes behind me. They all expressed interest in collaborating. When I finally managed to break away, Sarah was the first to push through the crowd. "Ethan, you've become so handsome." Seeing her slightly embarrassed expression, I fiddled with my cufflink, uninterested in small talk. "I didn't marry your brother. At the wedding, the fact that he was two-timing was exposed, and I became the laughingstock of the city. My company faced a crisis, and your father refused to return the dowry and even stole several of my projects." My expression was icy. "Are you hoping I'll help you get justice?" Sarah said. "No, I was hoping that for the sake of our childhood friendship, you would partner with my company and help me through this crisis." I was stunned by her audacity. "Sarah, are you out of your mind? The moment you called off our engagement for Julian, there was nothing left between us. I'm not the solution to your problems, so stop trying to pin your hopes on me." The Ethan that Sarah remembered was gentle and obedient. He would swallow his grievances. He would never humiliate someone in public like this. I splashed the red wine in her face. "Go shake your head. See if you can hear the ocean." Sarah fled in disgrace. When Claire arrived, she pulled a warm bag of roasted sweet potatoes from her exquisite handbag. "Ethan, you haven't eaten all night. Have something to fill your stomach." Her tone was light and easy. It was just like back in school when she would wait for me outside the classroom in the snow, holding roasted sweet potatoes. From dawn till dusk. When memories become deceit, who can't see through a fake heart? My expression was cold as ice. "I can't accept your kindness." "Miss Davis." Claire paused for a moment. "Ethan, you must still misunderstand me. That night, nothing happened between me and Julian. His heart condition flared up, and he cried that he was uncomfortable and asked me to stay a little longer. I don't know how I fell asleep, and that's when he took the photo." I cut her off coldly. "My time is valuable. I don't have time to listen to your old stories." Claire grabbed my hands, pinning me against the corner of the wall. "Ethan, you still owe me a wedding. Why won't you listen to my explanation?" I struggled to break free. I slapped her across the face with all my might. Claire's head snapped to the side, a red mark appearing on her cheek, but she didn't seem to care. I admit I used to have feelings for Julian, but on the last day before the wedding, I finally saw my true heart. "For 3 years, I've been searching for you, but your research project was so important that I couldn't find a single trace of anyone involved." Claire's voice sounded incredibly wronged. "When I found out it was Julian constantly sending you photos to provoke you, I took back that set of ruby cufflinks. I said I would give you the best. Come with me to register our marriage, okay?" I laughed out of anger. "Claire, have you no self-respect? Are you addicted to craving things you can't have? When you were with me, you fantasized about Julian. Now that I've left, why aren't you shacked up with him?" Claire's voice choked with sobs. She followed me to the underground parking garage. My family, who had been lying in wait, suddenly appeared. Since learning of my return, their calls had been relentless. I had blocked them all. My mother grabbed my hand, her face streaked with tears. "Ethan, how could you just leave like that and let your brother be humiliated at his own wedding?" My father's brow was furrowed in anger. "Now that you're back, you'll hand over your projects to the family business. When the parents do well, the children do well." Julian chimed in, feigning weakness. "Brother, as Mom and Dad's son, where were you when you were making them sick with worry? If I hadn't taken care of them day and night, they'd be bedridden by now." I cut him off. "Shut up!" My mother was displeased. "Julian's heart is weak. Claire found him the best specialist for surgery, but he still can't handle stress." I shrugged. "There's no cure for stupidity. Julian's been in and out of the hospital so many times, and you never realized he's your husband's illegitimate son? You even helped an outsider drive your own biological son out of the house. No wonder you drove my maternal grandparents to their graves, and Mr. Grant cut ties with you before he died." "Nonsense!" My mother's face turned beet red as she looked in disbelief at her husband and her adopted son. I pulled a paternity test and proof of my father's asset transfers from my bag. "The nanny who kidnapped me and sold me to the mountains back then was your husband's first love. After it happened, he lied and told you she fell off a cliff and died. But she's been living comfortably in a villa he bought her, just waiting for a family reunion." My father's eyes were practically popping out of his head. "You ungrateful whelp! You just got back and you dare to investigate your own father?" Dr. Hayes once said that when you are powerful enough, you will be surrounded by capable people. All I had to do was voice a slight suspicion. Someone helped me analyze the situation and find the evidence. Watching Julian avoid my mother's venomous gaze, I added fuel to the fire. "I've already called the police. By now, your real mother should be in custody. As for you pushing me into the pool, stealing my things, bullying classmates, and driving a girl to jump off a building, I have all the evidence. You can have a family reunion with your mom in prison." My father lunged at me, trying to slap me. Bodyguards rushed out and restrained him. My mother's anger turned to tears. "Mark, I listened to everything you said, and for what? Did a dog eat your conscience? You stupid woman, you can't even control your own son. What good was marrying you?" It was as if her love-addled brain had finally woken up. She clawed at his face and kicked him hard. Wails of pain and venomous curses filled the air. Julian clung to Claire as if he were the one who had been terribly wronged. "I didn't know anything. Please get a lawyer to help me." In the past, whenever he cried, she would have dropped everything for him, her heart aching, including me. But now her face was filled with impatience. "Are you done? I haven't even gotten Ethan's forgiveness yet. Don't bother me." That sentence was like a poisoned needle stabbing deep into Julian's heart. He flew into a rage. He lunged at me, trying to wrap his hands around my neck. I slapped him with the back of my hand and followed up with a flying kick that sent him sprawling and bleeding. When I was at the research center, Dr. Hayes would teach me self-defense to pass the time. A little punk like Julian? I could handle 2 of him with one hand. Claire acted as if she saw nothing. She even asked if my hand hurt. I ignored her advances, disregarded my mother's desperate pleas, and got into Dr. Hayes's car. We sped away, leaving them in the dust. The day my mother came to find me, she looked 20 years older overnight. Her face covered in wrinkles and her hair turned white. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I didn't know that dog Mark had been deceiving me for over 20 years. If he hadn't driven a wedge between us, telling me you must have hated me after being kidnapped, I wouldn't have listened to him. But then again, you're at fault too. Julian knew to have the maid make me bird's nest soup. You did nothing. That's why my heart strayed." I scoffed. "Your eyes are blind and your heart is foolish. Don't blame me for being cold. The maid made the soup. What's the use in thanking Julian? And I bet you didn't know Julian was putting something in your milk. It's a slow-acting poison that causes your body to gradually waste away until you're confined to a wheelchair for life. No different from a puppet." My mother couldn't believe it. "I treated him like my own son. How could he do this to me? Ethan, Mom knows she was wrong. You know so many famous doctors overseas. Please help me, okay?" It took all my strength to pull my hand away from her grasp. "You reap what you sow. If you expect me to just forgive and forget, you really think too highly of yourself. Mr. Grant cut ties with you because right before he died, you insisted on making Julian his son-in-law. You literally angered him to death. I told Sarah everything. She will definitely destroy what's left of the Reed family," my mother cried. "What good will that do you? You're a Reed too," I replied. "I don't have parents like you. I've given myself a new name, Alex, a new life." "No, Ethan, you can't be so cruel to your mother." My mother knelt on the ground, desperately begging for my forgiveness. But I felt nothing. The company Dr. Hayes and I founded was unstoppable. It grew at a tremendous pace. Without me even lifting a finger, people eager to build a relationship with me didn't hesitate to devour the market share of the Reed and Grant families. They offered it up as a welcome gift. Claire started showing up everywhere I went, every single day. She sent me watches, cufflinks, sports cars. So, it made all the young women around me envious. But I told them a cheating woman's love is more poisonous than hemlock. One careless step and you're doomed forever. Claire wasn't discouraged. She bought the penthouse across from mine. She was trying to use her old tricks to move me again. "Claire, have you never heard that you can't unring a bell? The moment I ran from that wedding, I never thought about being with you again." She knelt on one knee and offered me a sparkling ring. "Ethan, I'm long over Julian. I took back everything I gave him and even arranged for people in prison to take good care of him and his mother to get revenge for you. Give me one more chance. I will give you all the love in the world." I said, "Don't. You're bad luck." Claire refused to give up. I felt the time was right. Right? While she was neglecting her company, I dealt her a heavy blow in the ever-changing business world. Her company was hit hard. Claire's first reaction wasn't to salvage it, but to smile. "Ethan, as long as you're happy, I don't care." I said, "Claire, stop flattering yourself. Without the support of my patents, your company was already going downhill. Don't use this disgusting devoted act to cover up the fact that you're a failure." Claire's face turned ashen. She clutched her stomach and collapsed. Fearing she would die at my door and ruin the vibes, I kindly called her assistant to take her to the hospital. Unexpectedly, she was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Epilogue. The day our company went public, Dr. Hayes held my hand. For the past 3 years, we had worked side by side, day and night, striving for the same goal. So we held nothing back. Our mutual love and devotion showed me the beauty of loyalty. At 30, I finally had a true family. A loving wife, an adorable daughter, and a playful, bouncing puppy. The Reed family went bankrupt. My mother sold off all her assets and moved into a run-down urban village where she hired an unreliable caregiver. She called many times, wanting to see her granddaughter. I flatly refused. To be merciful to those who have hurt you is to be cruel to yourself. Perhaps because her time was running out, my mother used what little money she had left to hire people to severely beat her husband, son, and his mother in prison. When the news reached me, we were having a barbecue on the lawn at home. My daughter noticed a woman in an ill-fitting pantsuit outside the villa, hunched over and peering in. "Mommy? Is that a homeless person?" Constant chemotherapy had made the woman lose all her hair. Meeting Claire's panicked gaze, I kissed my daughter. "She's just selling insurance, sweetie. You don't have to pay her any mind." Claire hid behind a wall. She clutched her chest, desperately trying to suppress the pain in her heart. A long time ago, she had dreamed of having a happy family. But the face of the man in that dream was blurry. Now, seeing Dr. Hayes standing by my side, blowing on a grilled chicken wing to cool it before feeding it to me, seeing our daughter playfully take a bite, and seeing the loving way the woman looked at the father and daughter, Claire finally understood what it meant to cherish the one in front of you. But it was too late. Those who seek happiness will find their true love. A wavering heart is destined to end up with nothing.